that the company was Cloudflare. That was thing we wanted. And also Credo Mobile was a second one we were representing. But you can challenge these things in court if there is a good rule of law in the right jurisdiction. And I think that there should be limitations on when the government can secretly order you to do things and never speak to anyone about it. And those are easy to be removed because it's very intimidating to receive. You know, there are a lot of national security letters that went out there, but only a few where people stood up and challenged it. And so that is, I think, the better way forward.
I completely agree with Kurt. My answer is that you need to talk to an attorney because there are legal options. One of the caveats that I want to give is that, as developers, you may have your either in-house counsel or maybe you have an outside counsel who handles your HR matters and your contracts and maybe your deals with your funding. And that may be a completely different skill set than the attorneys who are actually going to know how to fight these constitutional issues, criminal issues, the securities law, whatever it may be. I always like to give the example that you wouldn't want a dermatologist to perform brain surgery on you, and you wouldn't want a brain surgeon is not going to be very good at identifying if it's cancer by looking at your skin. And the same is true for lawyers. And I think relying upon folks that are working out in the space at either the trade associations, at organizations like Paul's and Peters, who can give you guidance to those. JW has a great practice as well, to find the person that actually has the expertise in the area, and to not be worried about, I've only got this much runway to build. I don't have time to pay lawyers to go to court. These issues are often affecting the entire space. And so to the extent that, you can reach out to think tanks and trade associations and others who can help with funding in some of these lawsuits if they are, important issues that are going to affect everyone. And that's what we've seen Coin Center do. We have participated in funding some litigation at Andreessen, the electronic, the EFF that Kurt has worked with for years. So don't be discouraged, and do your homework. And don't, as you've always been told, be cooperative if it makes sense. But if you're unsure, talk to a lawyer.
Can I come back to just one small point, kind of building on what Paul was sharing and speaking about thinking about the future of the Zcash Foundation and advocacy and community building work that we can do at ZF that has always been in synergistic with the work that ECC does on this stuff as well. The last 4 years, I volunteered time playing defense on the policy side, in court sometimes. I want to play offense too. I want ZF to be a part of the effort to play offense. And I wasn't kidding earlier. It might have shock value the first time you hear it, but I wasn't kidding earlier when I said I want it to become an important part of the professional obligations of investment advisors and stockbrokers and accountants to have a privacy conversation as they talk to clients about crypto. That's going to be normalized at that retail level as a result of SEC reforms and CFTC reforms. So Zcash needs to be a part of that conversation. That's great for the community. If every accountant and investment advisor and stockbroker is talking about crypto privacy to their crypto clients in America in the next 5 years, that's great. That's a good thing for our community, right? And it's the right thing to do, and it's consistent with their professional standards. I'm going to have, in that national security conversation, why aren't we talking with national security experts about we have the ability to privately transmit funds? Half of the CIA General Counsel's office spends their whole day creating shell corps to try to send funds overseas. We can cut through all of that if you use Zcash, right? And foreign aid. Now, USAID is a whole political thing now, but that will eventually settle down, and USAID will continue to focus in a more streamlined way or whatever. But when that happens again, private crypto transmissions needs to be a part of that discussion because half of that money is wasted on bureaucrats and warlords as it tries to get to the people it's actually supposed to help. Zcash Africa is working on getting wallets to people all across Africa. So I have an idea of like, I want to teach the Gates Foundation, and I want to teach the Koch brothers, and I want to teach USAID and the CIA and stockbrokers about Zcash. And I think that that can be useful to our community and all of them too. Might be crazy, but that's my big think idea for ZF going forward.
I love it, JW.
I can add on a little bit there.
I gotta
Kurt's
take
gonna
off,
wrap up,
folks. Thanks for a
so-
great panel, and thanks for organizing.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Kurt.
Kurt.
I was actually gonna, sorry, Paul, I'm just gonna bring in one of these questions just so people know that we are looking at their questions. And I think it's relevant probably to what you were about to say. The question is, privacy tech like Zcash will become increasingly important to protect individuals against authoritarian governments. So it'd be good to have a strong understanding of the ideological underpinnings behind Zcash's regulatory strategy. And I think what JW just said is right on the money, is that, you know, we should be touting how these tools can save people's lives, can make people's lives better, even in corners of the world where they've never had the benefit of the rule of law or democracy. When I was testifying in front of House Financial Services, I think in like 2016 or 17, Brad Sherman, Representative Brad Sherman, who's not always been a good friend of crypto, said to me, what do we need this Bitcoin thing for? You talk about financial inclusion and reaching people in different corners of the world. You'll not find any place in the world, even the tallest mountaintop, where there isn't somebody with $100 bill. That's what we need for financial inclusion. And I was like, and listening to the conversation today, I'm like, yes, you're right. There should be a digital $100 bill. It should be a stable coin, and it should be issued on a private blockchain, because it is the proliferation of a stable potential global currency in the form of a bearer instrument, like a $100 bill that actually saves people's lives in the long run. But yeah, I don't know if Brad will be on board with all of that with Representative Sherman. Sorry, I shouldn't call him Brad.
Well, that strategy point is exactly what I was wanting to talk about, because for those who think about what I said earlier, you may walk away with the impression that all I really care about is a private stable coin, and that's not the case at all. From a strategic perspective, to me, that is a bridge to a crypto-based economy that we have to step in that direction, and this is a step that the society, I believe, is going to be comfortable with. It's going to be something that they relate to the way they've been using money in the past. It's going to be digital dollars, and if they could be private, that would be a way that we could solidify our position, and then we can continue moving down the path to a crypto-based economy. And that is a more fundamental change. But just to be clear, that is exactly where I think we need to be headed. But that is such a longer term vision that I think we have to really focus on the short term right now. And the time now is for stable coins.
Got another good question here. Isn't Tornado Cash banned over money laundering? How can Zcash avoid the same fate? Someone want to take this? I can also take this. Yeah, I'll do a quick take on this one because there's a few things that are sort of relevant to Coin Center. So the Tornado Cash sanctions, which actually were announced at the Zcon we did live in Las Vegas, are what sort of started this whole battle over the legality of Tornado Cash. And when OFAC, which is part of Treasury that does, sanctions law and tells Americans who they can and cannot transact with, they added the Tornado Cash immutable pool contracts, which were the privacy feature, the tech that actually allowed you to have private transactions on Ethereum, to the list of sanctioned persons. In the wake of that, we at Coin Center started working on a legal challenge to bring a lawsuit against OFAC saying you're not allowed to just add a smart contract, especially an immutable smart contract, to your sanctions list, because you're only supposed to add persons, like bad foreign persons, ideally, in oppressive regimes to the sanctions list, not autonomous software. And the Tornado Cash smart contract is not a person, nor is it even the property of one of these sanctioned persons, because it's immutable on the Ethereum blockchain running out on its own. And so that those legal arguments culminated in two lawsuits. In the Fifth Circuit in Texas, the Van Loon plaintiffs, not Coin Center, were in the 11th Circuit in our lawsuit. They actually got to judgment first, and the Court of Appeals said, you're right. You can't add immutable smart contracts to the OFAC list. And we're still waiting for a remedy from the district court on that ruling. What this all means in legalese is that actually pretty soon, not yet, don't go sending your money to the immutable pools yet, those usage of those immutable smart contracts will no longer be banned in the United States because of some really good lawyering that I can take a little bit of credit for because we're one of the two lawsuits. And then, so how does that feed into to like Zcash's regulatory strategy? This I think also is relevant to the earlier question about cypherpunk. To me, the reason why I was happy to join the board of the Zcash Foundation was that I trusted this community to work like Satoshi Nakamoto. Like that's how it is to be cypherpunk. It's not that you're going to go out and break the law, because if you look at everything Satoshi ever did, he didn't break the law. He found a way to build an incredible new system for financial inclusion, human flourishing, personal autonomy, simply by releasing software, which is not just legal, but actually a protected act in this country. And he didn't need to go operate a server that he was in control of, that he could always, like have discretion over or control over, that could be treated as money transmission. He did it all in just the most authentically cypherpunk way possible by just shipping really cool code. And so like I think that's still Zcash community's biggest advantage, is that we don't mess around with half measures. We build real decentralized tech. We don't put human agency in the loop, not just because we're afraid that the person who has that human agency would get arrested and forced to do things that would violate people's privacy, but just because it's the right way to build good tech. Like we shouldn't have to trust people in order to transact online. We should just be able to transact peer-to-peer with bearer instrument like assets like we do in the real world. So that's my little sermon about cypherpunk ideals. Does anyone want to chime in on that topic? Otherwise, we can move to another question too. Okay. Oh, Michelle?
No, I actually I was just taking a breath, but I guess what I could say, look, this community knows privacy and cares about privacy. However it is that you want to advocate. And so I think making sure that you're having those conversations, not just about, the legal stuff and the philosophical fighting, which is important, but really trying to serve as translators to those folks that are actually making decisions about what the laws are going to be, or if you have an opportunity to go in and talk to a regulator, or if, God forbid, you find yourself stuck in a conversation with a prosecutor wanting to actually have a conversation where you can have a conversation with them, and figuring out how you can express in an analogy that a computer scientist is not going to understand, like something that they're going to be able to relate to from a privacy perspective, because everybody wants privacy. That's what we do in all these court filings. There are lots of arguments about the law and why it's wrong and this and that and the other. But then there's a bunch of amicus filers, the friends of the court that aren't litigants in the cases, who will file just to talk about privacy and why this technology may be important, so that the court is also considering that alongside the law. And so these are things that are important to be talking about. And then thinking about, where am I operating? Where am I employing people? Who are my congressmen and my senators and their staff? Maybe I should have a meeting with them and talk to them about what I'm building and why I'm excited about it, and the importance of privacy, and how many people you're employing in their district where they have votes. These things you can be doing, because privacy is something that fundamentally everybody understands is not going to be against. You just have to frame the technology and what it's doing in a way that they can understand and relate to.
So we've got one we've got really basically just one question that we haven't addressed yet, and it's actually a good segue into maybe one topic we haven't touched enough in this panel. The question is, could the panel discuss the recent changes with travel rules in various countries? And if no one's comfortable speaking specifically about the travel rule in this panel, I think I do want to open it up to a larger discussion of, what do we see in the evolution of policy in the US that's contrasted abroad? What are the best things we see from other jurisdictions, like say the European Union? What are the things that are maybe more concerning, and what's the differential versus the rest of the world right now?
I can just briefly say that one of the things that you might want to look at are what are the standard setting bodies doing, because a lot of countries, frankly, they either don't have the bandwidth or they want to kind of do what everybody else is doing. And the standard setting bodies where they actually send representatives from their countries to participate, um, they're the ones who are actually kind of coming up with the non-binding, but sometimes they have teeth, rules of the road for these member states to actually create regulations. So I think looking at what they're doing, and to the extent that you have opportunities to engage with those representatives in those member states, whatever jurisdiction you may have a lot of business or maybe operating in, that's worthwhile and paying attention to that. And then, secondly, I think a lot of the countries have been. I joked about the book reports, but particularly in the EU, they do a lot of like writing papers and consultation, and it takes a long time. And this is kind of their thing. But the nice thing is it gives an opportunity for people to actually respond to those consultations. And sometimes they're actually asking pretty technical questions that would give people the opportunity to be able to engage. So there's a lot of stuff happening. It tends to be happening in the standard setting bodies right now. But countries are one by one slowly rolling stuff out. And but it's happening very slow. So I think we're really going to have to see what the individual countries within these areas, whether it's Asia or the EU or the UK, who kind of does things on their own. And then there may be opportunities to engage with those individual jurisdictions before their laws become final.
I think depending on how the travel rule it continues to evolve overseas, um, and God forbid if it ever comes here, how it would be implemented here. The Zcash transparent and shielded uh, transaction flexibility is a tremendous advantage for us. I mean, I don't really if the only result of it is I need a burner transparent address pre sending it into a sex and post, but then I get to go shielded the whole time. That's like a game of Marco Polo where I have gills, right? So I yell Marco, and then I get to just swim underwater for as long as I want to. Um, if that's how it stays, and I understand that how to be as how it is in Europe, I don't care about transparency immediately before I send to a central exchange or immediately after. I can do a burner transparent wallet easily and then immediately go to shielded and then I'm good and I do everything in shielded that I want to do. If that's still how it's implemented, hopefully that doesn't change and get worse and have like post immediate withdrawal hop monitoring or something. That worries me. For other chains, I can't say the same thing. And travel rules a lot more dangerous for other chains. And I don't love the fact that Nota Bene, a travel rule compliance group, met with the SEC crypto task force a couple weeks ago and lobbied them to implement some version of the travel rule, even though they don't have to. Shame on you, Nota Bene. I'm calling you out right now. I hope the SEC ignores you on that effort. That's my perspective on it.
It's fortuitous that this came up. Somebody just snuck a question in here towards the end. Is the transparent pool a liability or an advantage in terms of dodging adversarial regulatory bullets? If it's an advantage, what's needed to preserve that advantage while deprecating the transparent pool? It's a very Zcash specific topic, which I love. Paul.
Yeah, feeling about this is that the transparent pool becomes much less important as we have good bridges and we have ways to get in and out of our ecosystem. And if we had that and if it were robust, then I think I would feel confident about the transparent pool being a liability for our project, and that it just creates too much confusion, too much dissonance about what we're about and how you use our crypto. It's already complicated enough, people moving into the cryptocurrency space, not understanding what all the cryptos are about, and then you try to explain to them that, oh yeah, you can do transparent here, you can do private, here's all these different address types. To me, that is a major impediment and really gets in the way of our narrative as a privacy-centric cryptocurrency.
Don't we fix some of that with defaults and wallets, though? Privacy defaults, shielded defaults and wallets, Paul? Some of it.
Perhaps, and I think that Zashi has really done great at this, and it's made a huge difference in adoption. It's one of the reasons why I feel more comfortable in trying to onboard normies now, because I feel like I can do it in a way that is not going to be so overwhelming for them. But it's still, to me, it's way too confusing, and I just don't think it's that helpful to us, candidly. I think, once we have ways to get in and out that are not dependent on exchanges, then we just don't need it. And I don't know that it provides that much benefit to us.
To me, a sensible implementation of something like the travel rule wouldn't rely on the existence of transparent addresses. We've gotten pretty egghead here talking about the travel rule, but you know, the 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 core issue that I think the travel rule is trying to get at from a public policy standpoint is our financial institutions that are trusted entities sharing the right information between themselves and other financial institutions so that we can track the flow of illicit funds through the economy, especially through trusted entities who get the benefit of the rule of law and so should therefore also, cooperate with lawful investigations into the misuse of their systems. But that shouldn't at all rely on the existence of naked, transparent transactions on chain, because God knows, the Swift network isn't nakedly transparent, and yet the Swift network can be compliant with the travel rule. I think what we want is to move towards the world that Zuko has articulated very well, others have articulated very well, which is selective disclosure. The default should be private, and then when you are willing to share the details of your transaction or obligated under law, but this would be like a subpoena to you or a warrant to you, a search of your home, you should be able to selectively reveal those details. And if you're, say, taking money from the Tornado Cash immutable pools and bringing them to Coinbase, that shouldn't immediately be an off the table transaction that Coinbase just rejects or is banned under OFAC from processing. The Tornado Cash devs had a compliance tool, which is kind of like our selective disclosure tools in our view keys in Zcash, where they can say, look, actually, yeah, it's coming from Tornado Cash, but you can see if I unblind it that it's just my income from my software development job that I didn't want the guy in the cubicle next to me to know about, because he's going to then ask for a raise and then he doesn't deserve it. Like all the normal reasons for privacy. And then just unblind to the right person at the right time. That's what human dignity and agency are about. It's not about being a guy in a ski mask all the time. It's just about not oversharing like the history of your romantic life with your dentist when you're there, or not like randomly blurting out your insurance information when you're on a date. Like we have dials for how much we share, and we should have those dials online, not just in our physical world. I think we're coming up pretty close to time, and we've done a really good job, I think, answering, all of these questions I've got here in the chat. I think maybe, we'll have a nice little cushion to have some final remarks from each of you of anything that we didn't cover or anything that you want to share, just as far as like your, maybe we'll try and make it optimistic about what's coming next in public policy and crypto. JW?
Sure, got to run to class at 1:50. So I just want to thank everybody at Point Center, ECC, and my friend Paul. Michelle, good to meet you. At A16Z, love the white papers and stuff that Miles is doing, and I'm hopeful. Really glad to have more. As much as I'm a critic of DOJ prosecutorial discretion, critic of the discretion. Love the prosecutors who come into crypto. We need more of you. We need like 1,000 more of you. We need, I think, surround me with former prosecutors in crypto fighting for crypto. I hope that we get more involved in the advocacy side as an entity as ZF. I think we can do community building at the same time as advocacy, and there are synergies between those two things. And I'm hopeful that's a part of ZF's future. Really good to be with this community, especially in these difficult times. I feel like this is where the cypherpunk legacy flame is. So I feel like I'm being kept warm next to that flame. That's a comfortable place to be. So thanks for everybody in the Zcash community and everything you do. Love you guys.
Thanks, JW. Paul?
Well, I'd just like to say how happy I am that JW is in our community and is doing the kind of things he just described and has plans to do more advocacy on behalf of our ecosystem. I'm very excited about working with him. I'm excited about where the foundation might be headed and for what I believe is a lot more cohesion and cooperation in the Zcash ecosystem, driving towards common goals that really help us move forward. I just think it feels to me like kind of like an inflection point for our project that has been building a long time. So I really am optimistic, despite some of the stuff that I really want to ignore that's happening in politics. There's so many reasons to be optimistic right now from a building perspective and from being able to deliver privacy in this environment and with our regulatory environment that I think this is a time for us to stand up and really execute. So I'm excited about that.
And Michelle, I'll let you have the last word.
Thank you for having me and for not throwing any virtual tomatoes at me. You guys have been kind to let me bring a different perspective, but I think I share the same passion as all of you for the importance of privacy in our online lives and our financial activities and in everything that we do. And I think I've said this before, it's important for you as developers who are actually working on these things and building companies and employing people to be thinking about how can I actually build something that's going to address potentially the policy objectives that aren't unreasonable, meaning none of us want to facilitate North Korean to build bombs or people that are making money off of child exploitation. And I think arming ourselves with the data and the facts about what the realities of that are, is, so that we can shoot down the false narratives that that's all that this space is about, when we know very well that that is not the truth. And I think arming yourselves with arguments that actually have been pretty well crafted by a lot of hardworking developers and policy folks and attorneys out there, and just amplifying them. Because I have found that when you have a person who's a skeptic or even an opponent, and they hear something that's rational and has data behind it over and over and over again, actually, eventually, they sometimes actually turn the corner. I've seen it. So visit a16zcrypto.com. We have a ton of policy documents on these topics. Privacy is obviously very important to us as a firm and specifically in the crypto fund. And go out there and be warriors for privacy with all of the information and the talents that you have, and with the gifts that have been given to you by those that have fought before you. So thanks for having me, and keep building and stay positive.
Thanks, Michelle. And as for me, if any of the cases that I've mentioned, the Tornado Cash actions, the Llewellyn v. Garland case about unlicensed money transmission, any of those impact litigation or other policy efforts that my organization, Coin Center, are interesting to you, please visit coincenter.org, where we have all of our educational and advocacy materials available. And I love the Zcash community. I do miss being on the board of the foundation. I love the people who want to build in this space. If you ever have concerns or questions or think you could, explain this better than I'm explaining it to someone in Congress, shoot me an email at peter@coincenter.org. I really want to support this space. So thank you all for tuning in. I think it's been a great discussion. Hopefully it was useful as you continue to build.